So let me start when you press the record button. Oh, you did. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this session. It's about digital transformation using DevSecOps with SUSE Rancher. So if we haven't met before, my name is Derek. I'm the APJ Principal Technologist for Cloud Native Solution at SUSE. So I'm based out of Hong Kong. Today with me, I've got a pre-sales consultant who is based in India, Deepak Patel. He's helping me to prepare all this session, and also he will be helping us to answer all your questions. So please feel free to put in all your questions in the GoToWebinar questions window, and Deepak will help us to answer them. And of course, if there's further discussion, we can always leave it to the end of the presentation and after the demonstration. All right, so let's get started. So this is today's agenda. What we are going to do is to talk about why we want to cover the DevSecOps topic, why is it important to your customer, and also for how SUSE Rancher can help you to achieve this. We'll show you some basic idea how the DevSecOps pipeline can be built on top of Kubernetes managed by Rancher. Followed by it, we have a live demonstration on going through how we build out this such process. And followed by that, we will also introduce you some interesting open source projects that can eventually work better and well together with this DevSecOps pipeline. We'll also share about a real life case study about running DevSecOps with Rancher in one of the customers that we are working with. And lastly, we will handle the Q&A. So this is all about today's agenda. So to begin with, let me share one story that is alerting us why is it important to put security in front. As you can see here, back in 2017, we have the cybersecurity issue here. Uber, who's trying to offer the riding sharing service to their customers. Their platform got hacked by or the hackers stolen all their customer data that are put in their system. So even Uber, they have put in a lot of security thing on it, but still the hacker is able to do it. The reason behind is because the developers, they simply check in the database access secrets into the GitHub, and that is exposed to the hackers and eventually got all the customers stolen, the data stolen, and eventually the company need to pay the ransom to get all this stolen data removed to avoid further abuse. That is a sad story, but it's true. So security is really important. Another thing that you can see also here is that Tesla in their platform on their Kubernetes is not properly configured, and then eventually it end up having been hacked into running some cryptocurrency mining in their production system. This is also an indication of that the security is part of the production system that every organization need to look into. There are more and more story going on. Just like last year, we also have this SolarWinds. They got their software also being hacked, and more cases are happening. It's never stopped. So security is now being seen as one of the top priority for the customer to put into their environment, including their development environment, operation environment. Wherever their system is running, security needs to be put as a high priority. And thus, if the customer is still working in a mode like this, just like this mini picture, is that the operation team got into fire to put out all the fire without the help from the other team, like from the dev team or some others. It will be always the problem. So we don't want to have this problem happening especially in the modern digital transformation era. So the dev team, the op team, together with the security team, they need to work together. And so that's why we have today's topic about the DevSecOps. So before I dive in further, let me pull out a polling question here. So let me try to pull a question here. Question 1. Okay. So I've got the first question about to have a quick survey on our background on everyone. Do you have any experience in DevSecOps with Kubernetes? So you can choose one of the answer over there. So let me pause for about 30 seconds to give you time to answer it. All right, 5 more seconds. Counting down.
70% voted. Vote early, vote often. Derek, I've got to say that picture with the little girl in front of the house is one of my favorite photos. Some favorite pictures. And that particular meme, you know, worked in dev, ops problem now. I feel like I've lived my life that way. On the ops side.
Your previous life like this, huh?
74% voted. Come on, if you haven't voted, you click on the little button on the screen and then click submit. It won't work if you just put it into chat.
Yeah. So we see that we have about 78% people vote.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Hurry up, hurry up.
Last chance. There we go. We've got an 80. That'll do. That's
80. Yeah, that's good. Now let me close the poll and see what's our view here. Let me share the results now. Wow, can you see that? Actually, DevSecOps is not a new topic for a lot of us. Most of us have already heard about it, but we don't know how we can build it or even put it into action on top of Kubernetes. And that is the right session that you're coming here today. Today, what we are going to do is trying to give you a basic concepts on what DevSecOps is, and then we will also do a live demonstration on how we can build such environment for your customer or for your own center of excellence to demonstrate how Rancher can enable the DevSecOps environment for delivering the software. So this is a very good background that we will learn from today. So let me hide these results and go on. So probably I don't need to do a lot of teaching about what DevSecOps. Basically, the idea is to have the security as the responsibility for everyone. Even if your organization do not have a dedicated security architect, still the idea is to have the ops team, the dev team to work together, but also to put security as the part of their responsibility, I would say. So it will involve a lot of education, training to let both teams to be aware of the security issue that they need to be handled. And throughout the whole delivery process, they also need to be aware of all the security weakness that they need to cover, the vulnerability that they need to work on, and also preferably if they need to automate it, then they need to integrate with the security tools in their DevOps lifecycle. So this is the idea about the DevSecOps. Basically, everyone is responsible for that, and it's also a kind of culture. It's not like the previous Mimi that you got the ops team left out alone to put out the fire when the development team got something bad on their side. So the whole team, they need to work together throughout the whole software development life cycle. And we try to put all the security fix to shift left. Basically, is to fix it to discover it as early as we can. So that is the whole basic idea of the DevSecOps. By doing this, then basically for the whole life cycle, including planning, coding, building, testing, or deploying, even into the production stage, everything will then be having an integrated security around the whole process. And such process will also become the continuous testing for the developers and the security professional to run it continuously, so that all the features, the developers that they developed will also be tested and also be secure enough to go to the market in a more quicker way. And so in many organizations, most development team, operation team, and DevOps team, now they put they use it to see that the security team is always the roadblock because they were very often not get involved in this process. And now, even if they finish everything, previously the security team, they still need to run a lot of penetration tests, for example, vulnerability testing, white box testing, a lot of different security testing to ensure their end products can be secure enough before they can move out to the production. By now, if we do the DevSecOps, then we shift the focus of the security into early stage, into the design stage. This is what the industry calls shift left approach, to make sure all the early process or the planning process will identify all the threats, modeling, and also to reduce the security service that will be being attacked in the production environment. So by using this approach, we'll also save the organization a lot of money because all the fixed security bugs can be fixed as early as possible during the software development lifecycle. So, so you don't need to wait until at the very end to fix the issue, which is usually very costly. And if it can't be fixed, it can be a disaster as well. Just like the story, the cybersecurity story that happens in the news headline that we mentioned before. And so this is why DevSecOps is very important nowadays for a lot of organizations. If we dive a little bit deeper on about the needs for each group of the team, then you will find that there are some different focus, I would say, that they are working on. For example, the development team, they are more concerned about how to develop the new features, new software, and release it, and then keep updating it. So that is their key focus. While the operation team, they don't like the change. They just want to make it the platform to become more reliable, performing, and also it can be scaled when there's more demand in using it. So their goals are very different. But if we put also the security team together, they are more concerned about especially the data side, the integrity of the system, the data, and also the system availability, for example, and also the data privacy, the confidentiality that they need to protect. All these are, the security team's focus. So how can we make all this team work well together throughout the whole software development lifecycle? Then they need to put all their practice into one single stream pipeline to help the software development from the code, from planning level into the production level, running very seamlessly. And so you can see this is one of the pipeline that you can commonly find in the DevSecOps community. So basically, what the whole team, when they put together in different stage, they will have different tool sets to help them to automate the whole process to run security along with this DevOps pipeline to deliver their application, to deliver their software into the production environment. For example, in the planning stage, they will develop the threat model to identify which area that they need to cover to protect well. Where are the vulnerabilities that they need to address? So they need to have this model to plan, how to tackle this security thing. And then when they do the coding, then they not only they just need to check the code quality, but they also need to ensure the code will also be using the secure dependency library, for example, to check to make sure all the code is also properly patched and well designed before they are moving out to build. So having the code review, and then after building it, then usually the build artifacts, they need to go through the testing to scan one more time to make sure there's no vulnerability before it's released to the production environment. And of course, in the production environment, you keep the runtime monitoring. You have some tools to help you to detect whether there's vulnerable thing that is happening in the production environment. You need to keep track of all the changes. So you need to have the proper tools to help you to go through all these processes. And so that's why if we try to find all these tools in the open source world, this is one of the examples that you will be seeing in a lot of on the internet or on the DevSecOps community. They will propose something like this. Basically, for each stage of the pipeline, then there are some tools to help them to help the software deliverer to become faster and secure. For example, when you are doing the coding, then you will have the collaboration system. For example, the version control system to help you to store your source code, to reconcile all the changes systematically, and also to keep track all the changes. So you may use some tools like this, and locally you may also want to test your code. For example, in SUSE Rancher, we have the Rancher desktop software that the developer can simply test their code to run in the target Kubernetes platform that they want to, and then they can simply mimic it in the local laptop environment and try it out. So these are the coding part that they will be doing. And also when they check in the code, then they may also need to make sure their secrets will not be get into the Git repository. So there are something like the Git secrets in the pre-hook stage that can screen out all these secrets before it's committed and stored in the version control system. So there are a lot of helping tools to help checking all these code secure. One of the other things that people will also do is to check the code dependency, whether they are having good patch level used, so that their dependence library embedded in their code won't have any vulnerability that might be exploited by the hacker at the production stage. And so all these analytics tools will also help the developers to make their code more secure while they are developing the features. And then when they move on to the CI server, then we have an automation platform that people can be used to build the tools. The majority of the customer today that we observe is using Jenkins. It has a very long history, and then is one of the best, one of the most popular CI tools, continuous integration tools to help building the software. Of course, there are some others like the open source project Tecton is also gaining ground, especially if you are going to target on the Kubernetes world. Tecton can make it cloud native as a continuous integration server. So there are some choices in the open source world, but Jenkins, I would say, is one of the most popular choice nowadays. And then once you build the software, then you will also at the same time run some testing depending on what programming language you are using. Then you will have the corresponding testing package to help you to run the testing to make sure all the code are well tested before it's packaged into artifacts into a binary. And the binary, after you build it, for example, if it's a container image, then you probably also want to ensure it's also scanned to ensure there's no image vulnerability that is left in your binary. And so we have some tools like Anchor to help you to check it out. And before you deploy it into production, you also want to do some testing on it. So like doing the web application testing using the OWASP to make sure the web interface side is secure enough. So there are some tools to help them. Code quality is like SonarQube to help you. So there are a lot of tools here to help to prevent basically some vulnerability that is not discovered and then move to the production. So all this, if it's covered well, then it should be a good safeguard for securing the code before it's moved into the production site. After you build the things, then you probably want to store it. For example, the container image, you can use the open source tools Harbor to help you to store all your containers images into this registry. So once it's ready, then you can use the deployment tools to help you. For example, if it's targeting into Kubernetes world, a lot of people will package their application into Helm chart format, and then they can deploy it. So there are a number of ways to deploy it, but at Rancher, we have a very scalable tools to help our customer to deploy their application that is called Rancher Continuous Delivery. Its project name is called Fleet. So this is the logo for the fleet. And we use it a lot for our customers to deploy their applications. And of course, with Rancher, then it also comes with a lot of the day two operation tools to help them to manage and monitor the whole environment. And that is equally important for the DevSecOps pipeline. So to ensure all the environment that they have is also properly configured, secure. For example, they can scan the CIS benchmarking to ensure it's properly configured to run the Kubernetes environment. And also they can use the open policy agent or the new upcoming project KubeWarden to secure what can be deployed onto the cluster. So all these are the tools that we'll be using. Some of them maybe you heard about this, but before we move on, let me pull in another polling question after you hear about all these tools. The first question that I have is like this. Let me pull out the question here, poll number 2. So this question is about asking your preference in using multi-cloud, multi-cluster container management platform. The reason why we want to ask this question is usually when you build a DevSecOps environment, there are quite a wide number of choices for you. Some can be run on-prem, some can only be stick to one of the public cloud providers. Some are just a SaaS-based tools that you need to stay with a particular environment, hosted environment from the vendor. And so it really depends on your choice. But either way, if your environment need to be deployed to be in a hybrid environment, just like running in maybe public cloud or in the private cloud, then what are the platform that you prefer to use to manage this together with the DevSecOps environment that you are going to use? So I've seen that almost half of the people here have already voted. Let me see. Let me give you one more minute and see if you can vote now. If you haven't, then please do it now. I think it's just a little button to help you to choose it. If you have done it, yeah, thank you. Please be patient to wait for the results. I think the results would be very interesting to see how people have their preferred platform to manage, multiple environments. Okay, 66% voted. All right. Let's close the poll now and see the results. Cool. Thank you for all your participation. It's very encouraging to see that SUSE Rancher has been chosen as the preferred platform to run the container management for multi-cloud, multi-cluster. This is the Rancher 2.5. And you can see the second one is another brand, which is also popular in the market, but we can see the others. But majority of this is using SUSE Rancher. I believe is very easy to set up and to manage the multiple environment. And more importantly, this is a pure open source. So usually the user has a better choice to simply try the software before they decide to adopt the enterprise SLA. I think that helps to get the adoption quicker and better in the market. So Derek, this is good.
Derek, I have to take my hat off to the one respondent who said that he was using kube control with different contexts with different clusters. That's a heroic effort. Well done.
Oh.
There might be easier ways of doing it.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's even a better design in the open source world. Yeah, we can do that. In terms of provisioning, building new environment, then I can show you later how easy it is with SUSE Rancher. Upcoming one, we also have a newer version, and you will find it is even much better. So we just need to wait when it's officially released. Let me close this poll, and then let's see the last one. Now, since you have indicated that you have some DevSecOps concepts before, would you like to share with us what continuous delivery tools have you heard before? Continuous delivery is the tools to help you to deploy the application in an automated way into your target environment. So in the cloud native world, in the market, there are few options over here. We'd like to hear your feedback. So I just give you some time, maybe 30 seconds, or when the vote is going beyond 70%, then we'll just close the poll. So I see now 56% of people voted. Now it's going up a little bit. If you haven't done it, please do so now. For those who have already voted, yeah, thank you, and just be patient. I think we are getting very close. 65% people voted. All right, now let's close the poll now, and let's see where we are. Cool. Now you can see that continuous delivery to a lot of us. I think 30% of us have already heard about Rancher Fleet, and combined with another 26% who has more experience with other tools. So we got almost 60% of people who have heard about the continuous delivery tools, or even probably they have tried it before. I haven't asked in this question, but I assume we have certain degree of experience with all these tools. For those who haven't heard what Rancher Fleet or other continuous delivery tools are, no worries, we'll show you how it works. But basically, Rancher Fleet, how it differentiates from the others is its design is for scalability. So imagine that if you're developing the application that needs to be deployed to a few clusters running in an active mode, then you probably want to have an easy tools to help you. But if you want to extend it into the edge scenario where you need to deploy the application into hundreds or thousands of edge locations, then Rancher Fleet is the must-have tools for you to enable you to automate this process. So we'll show you how it works later. Let me close all the code now. Thank you for answering all this for us. Now, all the theory are gone. Why not we just do a quick demonstration on how we can put all of these DevSecOps tools to run on Rancher. So as you can see here, this is how we can build the DevSecOps cluster. So basically, I have the private environment, and here's the Rancher, and then it manages a few clusters. So one of the cluster is dedicated to run on Rancher Kubernetes engine, RKE, one of the Kubernetes distro. It runs certain tools here to build the pipeline. One of the key things that we run is the Jenkins, together with a few Jenkins plugin to make the CI pipeline to do its work, like scanning the images, code quality checking, and so on. And we also have another independent cluster just to store the container images. So you can see that this is the harbor that we deployed. And then we have some target clusters that is running the application. The application is Java, which is the source code is hosted in the public GitHub. And this is how it works. And the end user, when they navigate into this endpoint, then they should be able to see some application look like this. So let me show you here how it looks like in the browser. So as you can see here, this is the Rancher environment that I have. As I mentioned before, I have the Harbor registry. That is the K3S cluster that is running and is hosting the Harbor here. And the other one is the DevSecOps. That is the cluster running Jenkins and other tools. And if I look at the others, then there are two clusters hosting the sample application. Let me show you what it is. Now, let me show you the Jenkins cluster. So the Jenkins is installed with the ham. So it's very easy. If you look at it here, then what I got is the Jenkins environment, and also I got the Anchor. As I mentioned before, it is the image scanning tools, and I also got the code quality check to ensure the code is also of high quality before it's deployed. So I got the SonarQube over here. So this is the environment that I got. And then if I want to look at how it works here, I can go to one of the ingress here. Then I can see that the Jenkins is exposed into my environment. Likewise, the SonarQube I can access from all these endpoints. So if I go to the Harbor, I can also see I also got the deployment. Harbor install the app. Harbor registry is here. And then if I go to the ingress, then I can see the Harbor is also exposed in here. So let me open them one by one. So first, I open the Jenkins, and then I need to log in. Then you will see there's a first pipeline that I built, which is called Spring Pet Clinic. This is the application that I'm going to demo today, and it's hosted in the GitHub. If you look at the GitHub here, so let me open the GitHub. This is my repository, and it has two repositories. So this is the source code that I'm using, and it will be fit into the CI pipeline that is running on Jenkins. And then once it's updated, then you will update the image, and then you will deploy, you will update the Helm chart here. I separate into two repository in this demo. So you can see that I've got this Jenkins, and then I've got this source code. And also the image is stored in the Harbor. So if you look at the Harbor, if I log in again, it's running on Rancher. Then you will see that I've got the Harbor here, and then you can see here there are some application. The application that I have built is also stored in here. There are some dependency here that I use to build the application. All the images will be stored in this private registry Harbor running on Rancher. And so with all this, then what I can do is to show you how we can go through the pipeline, how we can build it, create it, to go through the whole pipeline process. So the pipeline is like this. If you look at one of the pipeline that I built before, then it will be like this workflow. So you will go through all this workflow and to build the project and then deploy into the Rancher. So you go through the building phase, run some testing, and then do some image vulnerability scanning, and then containerize it, store it into Harbor, and then you will update the Helm chart, and then you will deploy once it's approved. So this is how easy it can be done. But before that, let me show you how I can configure it. So I go back to the configuration session. So you can see this is the Pet Clinic pipeline that I built. And then to configure it is very easy. First, I need to configure the Jenkins. So I go to the Jenkins, and then I go to the system. You can see that once I install the Jenkins, it's automatically configured to use my URL. And then you can see there are some other things that I need to configure. It's also pre-populated here. So for example, if I go to the Manage Jenkins one more time, the notes here, config cloud. Then it's also using the Jenkins URL here. That is consuming the Kubernetes is running on. So what would happen is that when the pipeline is running, then it will be creating a new job, and this job will become a new Kubernetes pod running on the Kubernetes that is hosting the Jenkins. And then that means if you have more jobs that you need to run, then you will have more pods that you need to that you can be spin out on the Kubernetes cluster. And that is the beauty of running Jenkins on Kubernetes that can help you to scale very easily without going through all the static setup when you are using the virtual machines way. So this is how we configure it. And then the other part that we also configured is about the continuous delivery part. So let me show you how it works. If I go to the Rancher again, go to here, and then I go to the continuous delivery, you will be able to see that I've configured my Spring Pack Clinic continuous delivery option to monitor my Helm chart. So basically, this is the repository hosting my Helm chart, as I showed it before. This is the deployment Helm chart for my applications Spring Pack Clinic. So it's pointing to this Helm chart. And then if you look at the Helm chart configuration, it will say which build release, which image release that you are going to use to deploy. And so it's when we build a new image, then this Helm chart will get updated. So once got updated, once we have configured the Rancher fleet to monitor this Helm chart, then it will be deploying to the target cluster. So the target cluster that I've configured, if you look at here, is that this is the Git URL that I'm monitoring, and then I will be deploying into demo clusters. So this demo cluster that I defined will be identified by labels. I will show you later. And then this demo cluster, the application that I'm going to deploy to will be on this target namespace. That is the application namespace that I put, Spring Pack Clinic. So the demo cluster that I have is in here, the demo cluster group. So I defined this demo cluster in here. Currently, it has 2 clusters. So for example, if I go to here, then you will see that the criteria to become part of this demo cluster is to have the label environment that is marked with the value demo. So that is how we can deploy the application into the clusters. Currently, I have 2 clusters that is with this label. And if I want to add a third one, it's very simple. So basically, I go back to the Rancher environment here. What I can do is I can provision a new one. So for example, I want to add the RKE3 here. So RKE3. So I add the cluster in my environment is running on VM. And then this is RKE3. And then this is RKE3. I give the cluster name, and then I can give a template where it specifies the VM size that I need to run. So in this case, this is the template that I have. And then basically it's an all-in-one. And most importantly, I just need to add the label that I want to join the cluster. So for example, this is the label that I have. And then this, I just leave it as is. And then in this environment is a private registry. So I can specify the URL for my private registry. And enter the credential. And then I can make the deployment more faster in this way, so that all the system images will be deployed onto this RKE3 cluster. So right now, what Rancher is doing is it will spin up the cluster for me. And because it has the label that is matching the demo cluster that I'm going to include, then when I deploy the application, it will also be deploying into this new cluster. So this is how easy it is to provision a new cluster in Rancher. And that is why it's one of the most popular Kubernetes management tools, as validated in our previous poll. It may take a while to provision. While we're waiting for this, let me show you how we can run this pipeline. So with this pipeline, what I can do is I open it up. And then I'm going to modify the source code that I have. For example, I go back to the source code that I have. Spring Pack Clinic. And let me navigate to the source code. Main resources, templates. And this is the home page that I'm going to change. For now, how it looks like is like this, the demo environment. So the home page right now is saying, hi guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this, instead of saying hi guys, into something else. So for example, hello, SUSE Rancher friends. For example, I just change the greetings, and then I say change greeting, and then I commit the change. So what it will happen is the Git will just send out a webhook to notify Jenkins to start a new build, to pick up the change and start building the whole application again. So as you can see here, GitHub is now pushing by my name, and a new pod, a new job has been created. If you look at the Jenkins, if you look at here, the Jenkins workers namespace, you will see that there's will be one pod running for my job. So this job is now running. So it's running the Git checkout and so on. So let me bring out the Rancher fleet user interface. So let me just put it down here. So you will see that there's one cluster adding up. So the cluster is now adding into this target group. And that's why it's trickling out. So it's adding a new cluster. Initially, it has only 2 clusters, but as you can see in the Rancher, if I go back to the cluster manager, as the RKE3 is ready, then it's adding into this target group. And so it's adding into the group now. It is going to reconcile, and the Rancher fleet, what you will be doing is to register this new Kubernetes cluster that I just launched as one of the target group to be able to deploy the application onto this environment. And so you can see that is now adding. If I want to check the details, then it's now updating one of the cluster RKE3 here. The reason why it's included is because I just added the label into this cluster, and now you can see it's ready. So if I go back to the Jenkins pipeline, it's pending for approval. So I need to review all the vulnerability scanning, all the testing results here. For example, what's changed here? I can check what's the key changes that I made, and then I can also see the testing, how many of the tests has been passed, and then you can do some more checking as well. For example, here the code quality is updated in here in the SonarQube, and then I can do all this checking to see if there's any issues around. So far, there are issues for this source code, but it looks like it's not really critical and major for now. So because it's a demo environment, I just leave it as is. So at least I can see all this before I go on. So once I say, okay, everything is ready, then I just update it. What it will be doing, it will be updating my Helm chart to use the new version number, build 21, and then it's going to deploy into it's updating the Helm chart, and then what it will be doing for the Git repo is to update the cluster. So as you can see here, the cluster now is picking up. So it's now in progress. It's going to push the new application into all these 3 clusters. So 2 of them are existing one, and the third one is just I built a moment ago. So it may take a while, but if I want to look at the details, you'll see that it kick off the reconciliation stage, and then all the change will be packaged as what internally they call it as bundle. And through this bundle, then it will be deploying the application into the target cluster. In this case, is RKE 1, 2, and 3. Now, so it may take a while, but once it's ready, if you go to here, then I would expect this will be changed into hello SUSE Rancher friends. So let's just be patient. It may take some time. But if I'm nosy about what exactly is going on, then of course I can go to Rancher to take a look. But as we speak, then it's just ready. So let me refresh this page and see if it's okay. And I can see the SUSE Rancher friend here. How about the RKE3, the new one? Can we do the same? I think my Helm chart does not define the ingress controller, and so I need to just check it here. So if I need to go back here, at least I want to show you is already there. It's in the namespace Spring Pet Clinic, and you can see the pod is now up and running, and is using the 1.21 here. So in case I want to do it, then I need to map the ingress for now, as I did it for the others. So for example, I just do the same like this. But because we are almost running out of time, I'm not going to show you how to do this. But at least you get the idea is how easy it is to go through the whole automated process, to go through the pipeline, and also the Rancher fleet to deploy the application into our target cluster just very quickly and easily. So let me go back to my slide. So these are the things that I covered before. So one thing that I also want to mention after our little demo, indeed, the SUSE Rancher government solutions team also has been helping the US Air Force to develop this DevSecOps in a box program. The source code is here. It's called Platform 1, the Big Bang project. So we have this architect, Josh Wolf, who explained how it works and how we can build it. It's an open source project, so you can simply check out the code and run it on Rancher if you want. So for further information, I suggest you to visit this SUSECon session. It's very inspiring, and you can see how the team has been working together with the US Air Force together to build this Big Bang project to run the DevSecOps that will meet their security requirements. And there are even more things that you can also worth to try it out. There are a few other open source projects that we are incubating, and we've been already released it to the community to invite the people to try it. So one of the interesting one I found it is the Rancher desktop. The Rancher desktop can be running on Mac and Windows. It can help you to launch the Kubernetes version that you need to test your application, and you can easily switch to another version. So with the other tools, I found that the others can be more clumsy, but with Rancher desktop, it's very handy. If you want to learn more, then you can simply go to the SUSE Project's GitHub or go to this website to take a look. And in this summer, just it happened that tomorrow there's a new series of the Summer is Open session that you can join to hear more about each of these projects, how it works, how it can also be added into the DevSecOps pipeline that we are building together to help your customer to build a more user-friendly, developer-friendly environment for them to run the DevSecOps. So that's the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, then let's spend some time to check it out. Is there any questions?
We've had some questions along the way, Derek, and most of them have been answered, I think. If your questions weren't answered to your satisfaction, feel free to post them again or a version of that into the questions channel, and we can follow that up. There was one, the Jenkins modules that you're using. We did answer this, but perhaps you can go into a bit more depth about how many Jenkins modules you were using during that demo, or which ones.
Oh, okay. Sure. Good question. Let me show here the Jenkins here. Let me go back to the Jenkins, manage Jenkins, and then manage plugins. So the installed one is all this Anchor for image vulnerability scanning, the plugin that I have. And then the Blue Ocean is the fancy pipeline that you've seen. This is the Blue Ocean that we built along with others. Basically, I just put in like Docker, GitHub, to be able to work with Blue Ocean and so on. So we have put in some also the Java plugin for Maven build, because this is a Java application. It has its own building tools to do it. I just install it. And for Kubernetes, then I just also install the default one, which will help you to seamlessly integrate with Rancher out of the box. So yeah, these are the basic thing that I've deployed into the Jenkins. So the way that I build it is I follow the Jenkins instruction. I write up a Docker file. I build my own Jenkins image, and then is deployed into my private registry. So this is my Jenkins file, and then it contains all the plugin that I have, so that every time I want to add more plugin, I just pre-install it, make it into my container image, and this can help me to make it easier and faster to refresh my Jenkins instance. And it's also one of the good practice, because the Kubernetes is an immutable infrastructure. And so every change that if you can keep track in the container image, that will be good. Yeah, hopefully this can answer your questions. Is there any other questions here? I see this.
There was one question, you may
Oh,
have just touched on it then, about making Jenkins and the Jenkins workers serverless, coming up only when there is a request to build, or when someone is looking for a Jenkins console. Is that possible, do you know? It's really a
running
Jenkins.
running Jenkins as on serverless environment.
Yeah.
Is this the question?
Well, as a
I haven't
serverless,
tried.
the Jenkins worker server, so it spins itself up. It's really outside of the scope if you're good question for a Jenkins expert.
Good question. we can explore, but at least for Rancher, I just find it very easy to set up the Jenkins to run on. Just deploy the Helm chart, and then it just work. Although the plugin that I need to build my image. Otherwise, it works perfectly. And the way that I like it is scalable. I can simply deploy, set up each job to run as a separate pod on my target cluster. So that can help me to scale to run as many pipelines as I want. This is especially true if you have a microservices environment where each project may have tens or hundreds of components that you need to build. That can help you to build the server more scalable to entertain all these microservices requirements.
So I have a question. There are, you can see a bunch of questions in there, but I have one. I wanted to touch on, going back a little bit from the demo that you did into just the discussion about DevSecOps. So who do you think are the best people inside of an end user customer to talk to about this? Is it the development team? Because typically, in my experience, as soon as you start getting security involved in development, people find ways of getting rid of it in order to speed things up. Or is it the operations team, because they need to have something more rigorous to set up for their environment? Who's the best person to talk to, or the best people to talk to inside of an organization about DevSecOps, and what's the practice that people have?
It really depends on the organization setup. Sometimes it's the development team, they may submit their requirements, and then the enterprise architecture team can help to address their answers. So if we need to talk to, of course, the end users of this system would likely to be the developers, but who's going to go in charge to host or to run this infrastructure to run the DevSecOps. Usually it falls back to the infrastructure team, as far as I know. And then the security side, I think, is the fact that not every organization would have a dedicated security people to take care of the DevSecOps things. If they have, certainly they are big enough to set up proper IT organization structure to entertain all these security concerns. But otherwise, if they don't have, they may rely on consultants to help them. Then in that case, usually the dev team and the op team would have the shared responsibility to take care of the security requirements on building the DevSecOps. And so it really depends on the organization structure that you are working with. But at least if you got all this basic idea, when you have a conversation with the team, with your customer, at least you may have a better engagement with them and figure out who is the best person to talk to.
Thanks, Derek. We've had a few questions about whether things are available in the Rancher marketplace, and obviously the answer to that is that there's lots of elements to what is available in the catalog. Essentially, there are some things that are shipped by default that are covered by the Rancher SLA.
Mm-hmm.
There are some partner-related charts which are shipped, or at least the links to those repositories are shipped, and they've gone through an extra amount of integration. But Derek, could you please, perhaps just show adding a repository, because there's a question here. Jenkins is not shown on the app in Marketplace in his setup. So what does he need to do in order to add the repository?
Sure, he's right. It's not out of the box over here, but it's easy to add to. For example, I'm in one of the clusters here, so I just go to Add Marketplace, and then you can see that this is the default marketplace that I have. It's based on the chart repository that you have here. So if you want to add, for example, the Jenkins here, then it's easy. You just create a new chart repository, and then you say Jenkins, and then you put in the Jenkins chart URL. For example, I just search the GitHub, maybe Jenkins Helm chart. So this is the official one, Jenkins CI. So what I can do is to follow the instruction. I just add this guy. This is the URL that I need to use, and then I simply add it to here. And then I say create. Then it will bring up into my marketplace. And then I can search it back, Jenkins, and here we go. Then I can, start deploying my Jenkins onto my cluster. It's very simple. Of course, you need to configure it properly, but it's easy to start off. Once you have the Helm chart available in the UI, then you can simply start from here. Hope this answers your question. Is there any other questions that I haven't answered yet?
No, that seems like it. And the good news is that it seems like our friend who was using Kube Control with multiple contexts is seeing the value of Rancher, and I think he's probably going to start exploring it pretty soon. Awesome. Thanks very much, Derek, and thanks everyone. If there's one more question, I think we can take one more question with 1 minute to go. If someone is quick on the keyboard, they can go ahead and do that. But otherwise, I think Derek, thank you for your help. Deepak, thank you for your help in the background there as well. Yeah. And Amy, thank you for organizing it all.
Okay.